This is Smiles TV. Welcome to Smiles Television Talk Show. I'm your host, Stephanie Anthony Miles, and thank you for tuning in again. I am really excited about this broadcast. This young lady is a mother, a minister, an entrepreneur, and an attorney. And guess what else? She's my niece. And she does great things in the metropolitan area, and I'm expecting her to do great things throughout the world. Stay tuned for Smiles Television Talk Show as we introduce to you attorney Jocelyn Sandifer, who is owner of Sandifer and Associates. Remember, Jesus Christ was born of a virgin. He was crucified and buried, and he rose on the third day. Confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord. Believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, and thou shalt be saved. Stay tuned for more Smiles.
Hi, I am Edie B. Anderson for Smiles TV. This Smiles TV broadcast features attorney Jocelyn Sandifer, founding partner and owner of Sandifer and Associates, Attorneys at Law, located at 10515 Lincoln Trail in Fairview Heights, Illinois. As a defense attorney, Sandifer is honored to pour into the community that poured into her. Attorney Sandifer is also a wife, mother, and minister who graduated magna cum laude from Jackson State University in 2005 and in the top 1/3% of her class in 2008 from the Mississippi College School of Law. Stay tuned, you just might find yourself in need of lawyers who care. Remember, you look better with smiles. For Smiles TV, I'm Edie B. Anderson.
Welcome back to Smiles Television Talk Show. Welcome, attorney Jocelyn Sandifer. She owns her own law firm. She's going to tell you a lot about it. Jocelyn, thank you, Niecy. Thank you for coming to Smiles Television Talk Show. And you know what? I was jumping in the name of your attorney office. Tell the audience what you do.
Oh, what I do? Well,
Okay.
I am the owner of Sandifer and Associates, and we do so many things. I think it's difficult for me to describe specifically what we do. Obviously, we practice law. Our biggest outreach is with individuals that have been charged with criminal cases. So that's one part of it. I like to look at the law firm as a hub for individuals who need help. So there are instances where maybe we can't assist certain individuals, but we still try to be a space where people can come, ask questions, and get assistance if they need it. We do practice personal injury, workers' comp, a small amount of family, but our biggest area, our practice area, actually happens to be criminal law. I used to say we handle from misdemeanor to murders, but that seemed a little serious. So now I just say we handle things on a wide spectrum in reference to the criminal justice system.
You know what? Watching you grow up and seeing you today is a blessing. And you've always had the gift of gab.
Yes.
Yeah. And that must go well in your field. I'm sure it does. Take us on your journey. You left East St. Louis, but you grew up in the district here,
Yes.
District 189. And so from there, take us on your journey to where you are now.
Okay. I thought you wanted to go back further, like second grade.
Okay, well, let's go back there because you know what? You have some stories from second grade.
I'll say this. The only reason I wanted to go back to second grade is because my second grade teacher, Joyce Smith, first of all, she used to give SWATs. I don't know if they don't do that anymore. But she used to always say, Jocelyn, you like to talk so much, you should be a lawyer. And something in me made up in my mind when I was about 7 or 8 years old that I was going to be a lawyer if it meant I could speak. Now, it didn't mean that I didn't have any other thoughts about what I wanted to be along the way. I definitely did. But I believe in those self-fulfilling prophecies. I tell people all the time that really what you say to children, what you speak over them really does matter. I didn't even really know what lawyers did until I got to law school in-depthly. Because obviously there's an idea of what lawyers do that's personified on on TV or in different spaces, but I didn't know any lawyers personally. But I always knew that Miss Smith said lawyers talked, and that would be a thing that I could do if I went into that profession. But following graduating from East St. Louis Senior High School, I went to the Jackson State University in Jackson, Mississippi. And to this day, really, I'm a huge alumni, but I'm a proponent of historically Black colleges and universities, because I do believe that when you know who you are, you really can do anything. And so I felt like going to a HBCU just helped hone some of my skills. It prepared me to be competitive and really taught me who I was, so that when I went into a space where I was a true minority, I was, I believe, one of 9 Black graduates from my class, and one of 13 that got into the school, or at least that started the same year that I did. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't apprehensive about my own abilities. I was nervous about starting on a new path, but I was prepared.
Let's do this.
Okay.
Because we talked about second grade and we brought you all the way to almost today, but we didn't talk about your family. And I have to acknowledge my brother, Pastor Joseph Alexander Anthony the
Your
third,
best friend.
my BFF, my best friend, and your siblings, because you guys have, and his wife, my sister Cheryl, you guys have a beautiful family. So prior to going to college, you got some training at home,
Right.
Okay. So just real briefly, tell us about your family.
I am married to Adam Sandifer. He's really my biggest cheerleader, which makes my mom sad. No, and then my 3 lovely boys: Adam Jr., Anthony, which is my namesake, and then Aiden.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they're just such wonderful children and bright. I was
And
looking at
bright.
something. Somebody just got an award for, or maybe they were graduating or something.
Yeah, well, Eli, we call him Eli because my husband's name is Adam. He just recently and Anthony, actually, they were put on the honor roll for their grades last semester. Yeah, so we posted them online. Growing up, I was the oldest of 5, and I do say that helped me to become an advocate. I've always been boisterous, opinionated, and I just grew up in a space where I could respectfully communicate my ideas. My dad was just a very consistent, constant person, and so was my mom. They just were good parents, and I'm obviously now seeing the fruits of their labor it's an incredible or remarkable thing to see. But I mean, I just felt like I grew up as a kid. I grew up in a loving home with parents that did what they said and they said what they meant.
Right.
And one of my favorite stories about my dad is just the fact that he's a realist. And I think all of my siblings will probably tell a similar story. But going into the 9th grade, my dad was like, look, I know y'all think we probably got a college fund saved somewhere for y'all. We don't. I like money put away on the shelf. And he just encouraged us really to be the best that we could do, and be the best that we could be. But that was coupled with a prophetic dream that my dad had when we were about 3 or 4 years old, in which it was the year of the cicada. And he saw us, the cicadas were being birthed, and everybody was afraid running around. My dad said that we grabbed the cicadas and we held onto it and squeezed it until it became bacon. And bacon, which my daddy loved at the time, meant money. Okay. And my dad used to have quirky dreams like that: a string and a shoe. You're walking with Jesus. I don't know if that was a dream, but he had quirky dreams. But we believed him. We believed that we would go to school for free. We believed that God would make a way. And it wasn't so much that they were I don't want to say extraordinary, but they were just parents saying things that we believe.
So you're the oldest, and then we have
my brother Joseph Alexander Anthony the fourth, my father's namesake. He currently resides in Dallas. He actually just had a recording March 22nd. I can't wait for it to come out. But he's a pastor at the Potter's House of North Dallas. He's a praise and worship leader. He thinks he's a doctor, even though he stopped at a master's.
Okay.
And he does graphic and digital design. So if you ever see my billboards, if you see any of my products, my website, my brother did all of that. And then my sister Janine is a vice principal in Indiana. I also have to throw in that she has 5 children because I think that's bananas. And she thought she was the most unlike my mama, but hi.
Right.
And so she and her family live in Indiana. And then my sister Joya, Dr. Keys, works as a primary care physician in Illinois. Finally, so she's everybody's healthcare provider and doctor. She works at Memorial. And then my younger sister Janelle is she's a biology teacher, but she also is in charge of their biology division at her school over in St. Louis. So
okay, and you know, God just really blessed through your parents and your family, and we're looking at the results today. So you went to Jackson State. The
Jackson State.
Okay. And then from there?
From there, I went to Mississippi College School of Law, which is also in Jackson. I laugh. I don't know why I didn't apply to law schools like at home or anything, but at the time, I felt like I didn't want to be a new person in a new place again. Even though going to law school was nothing like going to undergrad. And I still had my undergraduate friends, but I was in a completely different world. But I went there, it was a private, all-white, Christian law school.
Okay.
I don't know if I knew all of those things when I went there, but that's just to say it was a very conservative experience. But I was still able to be myself. And most people I know say they did not enjoy law school.
Wow.
But I loved it.
So did you start working for the state's attorney's office immediately following that, or how did that go?
I didn't. So I graduated in 2008, and first of all, I came out and started working at the Limited because we were in a recession and I could not get a job. And I also had gone to school in Mississippi. I thought I was going to do a clerkship there, and some things happened with the judge that I was clerking for where that no longer became a possibility. So I'm like, I'm coming home because I don't want to starve while I study for the bar. And I didn't. I moved in with my parents and I just started applying places. But I also treated looking for a job like it was a job. And I remember I would get up. I've never had this much time since, but I would get up every day and I would, I'd actually pray or study for 4 hours. And then I would look for a job for 4 hours. And that was just my routine. And then I started working at the Limited. My dad worked for FedEx. He still does, even though we want you to retire. Still works for FedEx. And he used to deliver the checks to the Limited. So they loved him. So I got a job there. I started tutoring part-time. And then I also started volunteering my services at Land of Lincoln, which I currently sit on the board for. But at the time, I was just a graduate of law school looking for an opportunity to volunteer my services. They started letting me do pro bono divorces. I started doing intakes with individuals that couldn't afford divorces and started just lending the skills that I had, which were limited.
You know, and you're making some good points though. For people who are watching, you didn't just jump into having your own law firm.
Oh no.
There were some struggles along the way, and you stuck through it. You stuck with it, and go for it.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I was embarrassed initially when I was working at the Limited because I was like, man, I got a law degree and I did all of that to come home. And, I left. Look, I graduated my class as valedictorian, vice president, and I could have stayed home and got a job at the Limited. So, you know how people are. So at least that was like kind of my internal impression. But I've always had a pretty good sense of self. So, I mean, when people came in the store, I sure didn't hide my head in the sand. I was trying to get a bonus. Okay, I'm talking to him. Does this suit look good? They had the scandal lineup. Okay, everything Olivia Pope wore. Yeah, like I need that extra money. Okay, this look good on you. So I didn't hide.
Sense of humor is running our family. Okay, you guys laugh with us. Go ahead.
So I was selling them suits, okay? So I could get my 75% off. So thank you, Limited. You furnished my first wardrobe.
Okay.
So yeah.
You know what? Let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're gonna go forward with talking with attorney Jocelyn Sandifer, who is the owner of Sandifer and Associates. Stay tuned for more Smiles. Do you have a Christian ministry, an inspiring story, an innovative idea, or an upcoming event? Are you an artist, an educator, healthcare provider, author, or musician? Since 2013, SMilesTV has shined a spotlight on the good happening around the world. Contact Stephanie Anthony Miles at 741-3770, or send an email to SmilesTV777@gmail.com. Let Smiles TV tell your story. You look better with smiles. Welcome back to Smiles TV, and I'm sitting here with my niece, attorney Jocelyn Sandifer from Sandifer and Associates, her own law firm. I like saying that, Jocelyn. I really do.
Thank you.
So we were talking before the break, and you were giving us your history, but I want to move it forward.
Right.
Let's talk about when you went to the state's attorney's office, because I think at one point we did have you and Brendan Kelly on the broadcast. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Been a long time, but go ahead. Tell us about working there and being an African-American attorney, female attorney, in that environment.
Working for the man every night at no. You know what? When I was in law school, I met a black prosecutor, and he said black prosecutors are important. And I didn't believe him. Honestly, I always thought that I was going to be an advocate for people, but it is true. When I worked in the state's attorney's office, there were probably 3 or 4 black attorneys there. I think the importance of a black attorney or any diverse person at the state's attorney's office is that we give a different perspective on so many different aspects of life. Prosecutors are just people that look at sets of facts and then make a determination as to whether or not a person should be charged as a result. But there's so many things that go into that, whether or not the officers did what they were supposed to do, whether or not the investigation happened properly, whether or not the individual's rights were preserved. But at the end of the day, the person that makes the decision is the prosecutor. And so one of the reasons why it's important to have a black face at the table is because generally we're coming with sets of experiences that are different than our counterparts. And you can see that anywhere from individuals that don't get insurance on their cars because they literally can't afford it, to a person that gets upset with someone else and takes their aggression out in a way that they shouldn't have simply because they don't have the proper tools to express the way that they feel. Having a black person there is essential. It's vital to the criminal justice system because it's vital to ensuring that justice is not only achieved but perpetuated. So it was a challenging task. Look, I had some people call me all sorts of names while I was there. But my goal while there was to do the thing that I was required to do, and that was pursue justice. And most individuals, whether you're on the prosecutor's side or the defense side, will feel comfortable with punishment, not all, if they feel like it is fair and equitable. And it won't always be. But the goal of a prosecutor is to try to see if that can happen. So I still respect prosecutors.
Right, and as a defense attorney in our area, the East St. Louis metropolitan area, but your office is actually in Fairview Heights.
It is.
However, you represent quite a bit of probably some of your old classmates. Yeah. How does that go?
Well, it can be challenging from the standpoint that I think sometimes they're nervous about whether or not I'll hold their trust and their the sacredness of the space, and I do. But look, my job as a defense lawyer is totally different. Now, prosecutors, y'all pursue justice. I'm going to represent my client vehemently to the best of my ability. That's y'all responsibility.
Okay.
So, I just want people to be treated fairly. I want the law to be distributed or executed in a way that's the same for everyone, no matter their background, no matter their circumstances, no matter the amount of money they have. I want it to be fair. And there are complications. I think sometimes I'm too impassioned. I'm too involved, I think. But I just rest assured that everybody needs somebody fighting for them.
Right.
And I try to be that one.
Right. And it seems that you're doing an excellent job. One thing we didn't talk about, and real quickly because we're running out of time, is the fact that you're a minister.
Yeah.
So how does that show up in your defense? How does your being a minister impact you being a lawyer?
Well, one thing, if you come to me, you're going to get some Jesus. But ultimately, look, I love words. I think I'm a better minister because I'm a lawyer, and I think I'm a better lawyer because I'm a minister. I look at the extraction of the word and the law the same. because the Bible says, study to show yourself approved, a workman, be if not ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And sometimes that's from a biblical standpoint, and sometimes that's from a legal standpoint for me. That's how I use it. I think that the Holy Spirit brings things back to my remembrance. I think it makes me more impassioned. I think it makes me more compassionate. And I think that being a minister also helps me view things from a wide perspective. God's justice is not always understood, but it is what we live by. And so I feel like that's the same way with the legal justice system. I don't always understand it, but it's the space where I move and I operate. And I think that I'm better at both because of Christ. And my clients are better because I pray for my clients. I pray for the outcome because I know that ultimately, whether we win or lose, quote unquote, the Lord will move the world to affect one person. And so whatever the outcome is, it's because God's trying to get that person's attention in a way that he best believes is necessary. And I'm just a conduit to ensure that those things happen in the right way.
Right. So, Jocelyn, if people want to make contact with you, if people maybe are interested in securing your services, how can they do that?
They can contact Sandifer and them. No, it's an off-camera joke. They can contact Sandifer and Associates at 618-489-1234. I'm on Facebook as J. Renee Sandifer, the same on Instagram. And they can go to our website at www.sandiferlegal.com, or they can Google us because we right up there for the best lawyers in the area.
Okay, so I know this was a quick interview, but is there anything that you want to share with our audience before we go?
Legally, if you are asked to come in and just talk with the officer, don't. Call 618-489-1234, okay? Their job is not necessarily to protect you when you're in a space where you potentially could be questioned, okay? Reach out, get some information first. Mamas, don't take your sons down there without talking to somebody first. Just don't do it, okay?
So I know you've done a lot of different cases, but I'm sure there's something that has really made a big impact on you. Can you think of anything in particular, any case that really sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, there's one case that I always go back to, and in this particular case, my client was charged with a heinous set of circumstances, and ultimately we ended up taking that case to trial. I think what I took from this case, we had gotten some information that was just completely different. And I believe my clients. I believe the information that my clients provide to me. And there was some evidence that came out that just really showed my client in a different light. And it was the first time that I felt like I had been caught off guard by information. And I know people always say don't judge a book by its cover, and most times I don't. Matter of fact, I think up until that point, I had given people the benefit of the doubt to an extent that was almost harmful, because I let my belief in what my client was saying cloud some of the legal decisions that I made. And I think from that point on, I just decided that when I have a perspective or when I have information that I believe is best, that I'm going to go with that. I'm not going to let my clients lawyer their case. And that's difficult because people have opinions and thoughts about the ways that things should go. And up until that point, I used to be much more open about allowing them to almost dictate, I would say, how certain things would happen, because I wanted everybody to be so pleased. And one of the things that I had to realize is that I had to keep the standard and not compromise that. And that sometimes means that family members aren't going to be happy. That means that sometimes my clients aren't going to be happy, but I'm hoping that they trust that it's ultimately for their good. And I also apply that to my own life, that sometimes when you put standards in place, when you put boundaries in place, you just got to keep them.
Thank you. Give me a hug. It's my niece. God bless you. God keep you. And you got to come back again because, we got a lot more to talk about.
All right.
Okay, so you're on camera. You said all right, and you're a minister of the word. And
That's
so
right.
we got it on camera. Thank you for tuning in to Smile Television Talk Show. Contact attorney Jocelyn Sandifer. She really, really cares. Remember, only what you do for Christ will last, and Jesus is the Lord. The Lord be magnified.
The Smiles Television Talk Show wants to showcase your business, organization, church, and activities. If you have an interest in being a guest on Smiles Television Talk Show, or if you have any show ideas, contact Stephanie Anthony Miles at smilestv777@gmail.com. You may also call 618-741-3770. Tell your friends to subscribe to the Smiles YouTube channel. Let Smiles TV increase your reach. Remember, you look better with smiles. IDEX Media does a lot. From IDEX Photography to IDEX Films. We help create forever memories and forever impressions. Imagination, image a world. IDEX Media.
Awesome sauce. Yeah, baby.